This Short Code podcast is a proud member of the MedEd Media Network. Inspiration, information, and guidance on your journey to medical school and beyond at mededmedia.com.
Meandering in the margins of medicine, it's the Short Code podcast.
Weird news,
fresh views,
helpful clues, and interviews.
By students, for students.
Subscribe to our weekly show at theshortcode.com.
Welcome back to the Short Code Podcast, a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. I'm Dave Etler. On today's show, ERAS Gate, and I try to find out more about my co-hosts. Those co-hosts are M3 Nathan Spitz.
The prodigal son has returned.
M4 Madeline Cusimano.
Hello.
M4 Abby Fife.
Hi.
And we expect to be joined by MD PhD student Aline Sanduke after she gets done with sciencing, or whatever it is she's doing today. Today's show is sponsored by Panacea Financial, a division of Primis, member FDIC. Stay tuned for a discussion I had recently with Panacea Financial co-founder Dr. Michael Jerkins about recent developments in the world of student loans. Madeline, Abby, how are those residency interviews going? Your check-in.
I actually haven't started yet. I took step 2 on Monday, so
okay.
I start next week.
Okay. What about you?
I've had a good handful.
Yeah? You feel good?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, none of them have gone bad, so that's good.
Well, that's good. None of the... What would it look like to have things go bad?
Well, I think it could be 2 different directions.
If you trip while being on Zoom and fall, that would be bad.
So I did almost forget to put my jacket on because I like to just wait till the last minute to put my suit jacket on. And that wouldn't have been the biggest tragedy in the world, but that was a panic moment. I had to sprint downstairs and grab my jacket and come back up 30 seconds before the Zoom started.
That's the sort of thing it's not a critical error, but it can shake your confidence.
Yeah.
Nobody would be like, where's her jacket?
On reading about Zoom, now in the era of Zoom interviews, was just kind of reading general tips, and somebody said to always wear pants. And I don't know if this has happened during residency interview, actual pants.
Absolutely, always wear pants.
So because some interviewers have asked people to stand up and that type of give me the twirl, and I know some people have chosen to wear sweatpants or shorts or things like that. And
I've always worn dress pants, but I pick my most comfortable dress pants, so I don't always worry that they my jacket and my pants match super well, but they're still always dress pants.
There's no reason to go nuts about it. But it's Aline.
What's the weirdest question that you've gotten or one that's thrown you off?
What is your favorite enzyme?
What?
And
you're
you
going
say?
into psych though.
Exactly.
And what'd you say?
So basically, every name of every single enzyme left my body in that moment. Yeah. I could not think of a single one except for lipase. It was phrased what is an enzyme that you think is really cool, or what's your favorite enzyme, and tell me how it helped you put everything all together. And I was like, oh gosh, so this is, I don't know.
That's very specific.
So I thought of lipase and I was like, I can't talk about digestion. I don't know. This is weird. But then I started talking about dopamine pathways in the brain. And I was like, I'm going to just tell you something from the basic sciences that I think is really cool. And I started nerding out on dopamine in the brain. And we had a really good conversation out of it. So
that's an excellent approach. You can answer the question by aiming it to where you want to go.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I thought of an enzyme that I'm not as excited about, but I also thought of this other thing that I'm really excited about. I was like, what do you want me to talk about? And he was like, tell me about what you're excited about. And we had this great conversation. So
can someone bring me up to speed? Because I just walked into what it sounds like a very interesting conversation.
We're just talking about residency interviews. Nathan asked
what your most difficult question or one that kind of caught you off guard was.
Oh, wow. So this was in a residency interview. They
for
asked
psychiatry.
For psychiatry.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Wow. They start the pimping early.
Way to play to your strengths too. I'm impressed. Yeah, that's awesome.
I know. Way to turn that around.
You did good.
That's awesome.
I'm sure there are enzymes involved.
Every other interview has been very normal, everything that you would absolutely expect to be asked about. So
I was doing a practice interview the other day, and she asked me to talk about 3 words I would use to describe myself and why. And I completely fell apart. I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot. I can talk about myself barely.
Did you ever come up with any? Or
no, I did. I did. But oh man, I came up with passionate, caring, and I panicked for probably 20 seconds, and then I just said strong because it's a word. That's an adjective.
You should have said panic-stricken.
I could have.
It counts. It's a word.
Right. Look, you asked.
And then when I was describing the words, I said each word about 10 times in the description. I was like, yeah, I'm really passionate because I'm just so passionate.
You can tell I'm passionate because I'm passionate.
I love the word passionate.
It's the passionate person by the way she is.
Yeah.
Define passionate, a person who has passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In those practice interviews or interviews in general, I guess something I'm wondering is I feel like I've always struggled in how to answer, like, talk to me about your greatest weakness, and how there's kind of the advice of, play it to your strength, but a part of me just wants to lay it all out on the table and be honest and hope that people appreciate honesty. I don't know what advice y'all have gotten in.
So I turned that question, I actually haven't been asked that yet, but I turned that question in my mock interview into something. I just told a time where I had a really good feedback session with an attending. And so I don't know if it's my greatest weakness, but it was something that I struggled with at some point. And then I talked about the feedback session with my attending, and then talked about what changes I made on that rotation. So I really just hedged on the weakness part and turned it into something I can accept feedback and grow from it. So that's kind of how I approached it.
Okay.
Something I've heard, in the general professional realm, a good way to answer that question is to identify something that is technically a weakness, but is so innocuous that no one would be mad at you for it. So one example I've heard is people say, well, I tend to be a very outgoing person, so sometimes I waste time socializing with my coworkers and chatting with them a little bit. But yes, okay, you say that you get distracted, but you're also saying, hey, you're a team player. Yeah. You get along with people, so that's all in all not a bad thing. So yeah, for example,
the question I struggled with the most, in my mock interview, and it kind of came up in a certain way in a couple of my other interviews, but this is the one where I just completely bombed on in my mock, was, what is your proudest accomplishment? Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of things that I'm proud of, but to name one in an interview, and I just wasn't expecting it, and then also at a place where I wasn't necessarily feeling super confident about myself. Mm-hmm. So that was just really hard for me to answer. But
sound like things that you should review before your interview. I'm not saying that you did it wrong. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is just before you get on your interview, you should be like, what's my proudest accomplishment? Yeah. And then not only are you potentially having an answer for that question, which is, important, but you're also building yourself up before the interview.
Yeah. Because I thought about strengths and weaknesses. So, I'd kind of gone through the things, but just the way that it was phrased just took me off guard. Maybe someone else would have been able to answer that easily, but I was thinking things in a lot why would I be good for this specific residency or a specific residency, because it was a mock interview? Or what are my 3 strengths? What are my 3 weaknesses? I wanted to have 3 of each just in case that was asked, but I didn't think about what is one single thing I'm most proud of to this moment. And she didn't say in medical school either.
Just in general.
So
I make a great cheesecake. I wouldn't walk into an interview thinking oh yeah, here's a place where I can really talk myself up, but in a way unrelated to the skills that you're there to talk about.
Well, I'm glad things are proceeding for both of you. This is a good thing. Tell me, have you checked your ERAS lately? As a reminder, ERAS is the Electronic Residency Application Service. If you don't know this already, it's the it's a centralized application system, and it's also where all of your documentation funnels through to the programs that you assign to be able to look at them.
It's like AMCAS for residency.
Right.
They're having a scheduled outage from all weekend. It seems like a poor timing.
My dear friend who's applying ENT, today is the day that they release all of their interviews.
Okay, that was really
that's evil.
Really,
so
poor
hopefully
timing
it'll
on
just
their
be
part.
fine until 5 p.m. and then
I'm sad for your friend.
The sheriff of Sodium this week blogged about ERAS Gate. And this year, a small number of applicants have taken to social media reporting that letters of recommendation, board scores, personal statements, and other documents were not sent to the programs they were applying to. And this is big because if the programs don't get those documents, they won't interview you. And if you're lucky, they'll let you know that you didn't get your documentations, but they might not even.
You just unlocked a new fear in my life, Dave.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've read a couple of the threads from the students, and it's like several weeks after like they have released their applications. Like one person a program director reached out to them of, hey, just so you know, your application isn't complete, and they didn't know for weeks. And by that time
has gone by. People decisions
I've
are
really
already being
tried
made.
to stay off the threads, and I feel like that's been good for my mental health because I had no idea this was a thing.
I also had no idea about this.
Yeah.
So the AAMC responded that they've looked into it and have found no evidence of a system-related error and put it back on the students to carefully review the instructions and process.
Some
make sure they're doing
blaming
it right.
bullshit.
The students themselves who have had this problem, many of them say they distinctly remember reviewing everything, and so they were surprised that some programs didn't receive their documents because they figured they'd done it all correctly.
And the fact that it's like the same issue with like several unrelated people.
Yeah.
And I liked how Dr. Comberdine, like in his like article had put to like these are some of the most, I want to say like neurotic, but at this like stage, like people
detail
oriented, double, triple checking things, and for it to happen to, I don't remember how many people. Yeah, multiple people.
I don't think we know how many people. But there has definitely been reports.
And there's a box on ERAS that I, in the beginning, checked a million times. That's like letters that are uploaded but unassigned, and it'll tell you like 1, 2, 3, mine is 0 because I used all of the letters that were uploaded. Sometimes people have, if they're applying to like transitional and like a surgical, they'll have multiple letters that they don't assign to every program. But and same with personal statements and stuff. So there's like almost a notification like box. So you would think that students would have noticed unless there was a glitch in the technology.
Well, that's my question is like where is it going? Like how is there any way they could have found out other than the programs notifying them? Because I'm thinking of when you submit, and I like went through each program and made sure every document had the green check mark.
Yeah.
But was that happened and then the program still didn't have the documents?
Right.
Or whatever system they used to download it could have glitched on their end. I don't know.
I mean, the what's his name? The sheriff of Sodium?
Dr. Carmody.
Dr. Carmody is frequently skeptical of the $94 million business of ERAS. And he isn't sure what to believe, but I mean...
Did you say $94 million?
Yeah.
For $94 million, your application should be tucking you in at night.
That's what he said. That's what he said. Yeah, and all the shutdowns that ERAS has.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, ERAS has a terrible track record as far as I'm concerned. Every year on SOAP, it seems like it crashes or, and then... SOAP is the supplemental offer and acceptance program where, if you don't get immediately matched in the match process, you go through this extra process to get you a match. And it seems like every year it goes down for many hours, causing panic and concern and confusion and sadness. And
who would never let you miss a notification? Facebook. Facebook should run you right. Facebook or like the metaverse. Meta. That's right. They're branching out now. Them or like YouPorn. YouPorn will always let you know when there's a new vid. I don't know this personally, but I have heard
from a friend.
Yeah. Well, do you guys remember when the marketplace for the ACA was first rolled out at the state level? There were all these like outages and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was, who was it? Like some major porn site reached out to the Obama administration, was like, "Hey, we can help you out." Like we manage like thousands of people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So look, despite the business that they're in, they're very effective at what they do.
Well, Facebook and Instagram shut down this year, so
they did. But I mean, that was like the first time
like
ever.
15,
right?
I mean, this is look. Computer problems happen all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
But how often do they like cause potentially like career?
Well, this is the thing.
changing?
This is different. And I would say that there's the argument that you've already talked about, which is med students are typically pretty detail oriented, and I have met students who aren't.
Yeah, but they're few and far. But you can't get this far in this type of career being a very casual person.
And sometimes people are a little oblivious, but like it's typically like we're inundated with so many things that we have to do. I can't lie and say that I haven't forgotten to turn in an assignment because I was unaware of a deadline or whatever. But even if you are a very like relaxed student,
ERAS is one of those things that you're not going to be.
This is too big of a deal.
It seems very like if they did, it would be like too calculating to, for example, forget to assign a program and then create this like whole story on how exactly that had happened. And that like several people also concocted the exact same story to potentially cover up like that. Just I don't buy that.
Agreed.
And also Dr. Comoni made the argument, noted that while IT problems are not foreign to ERAS, this is also the first time this particular issue has happened. This particular thing. Every year we expect SOAP to shit the bed, but this is I don't think we've seen this particular problem before, and so for multiple people to be like, "Hey, this is happening to me," that's kind of an issue.
In other years, an issue I've run into is like when I get an invitation, especially like midday. It's been like loading. And I've gone to like multiple different devices and eventually just one device works. It's never compromised an interview. Maybe like the perfect time slot that I wanted, but there's have been time slots, so it's not a big deal. But I think that there probably has been some students who've missed out on an interview due to that. It just hasn't happened to me that often, but some of my classmates have noted that like almost every time they got an invite, it was like really hard to log into ERAS. Also, do you guys pronounce it ERAS or ERAS? Because I've always pronounced it ERAS.
I'm an ERAS person.
Everybody's an ERAS person except for
Dave and Matt Edwards.
People in med schools, people who work in med schools who are like, no, it's ERAS. Because none of us really want to be like, hey, students, go to ERAS.
It definitely sounds more, I don't know.
Appropriate?
Yeah.
It sounds more like
you guys have a vested
ERAS.
You guys have a vested interest in not pronouncing it correctly.
Do not rob us of our opportunity to say a curse word totally guilt-free.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I think we need to just address the fact that this is a $94 million business that is
nonprofit.
Matching us.
Is it not for profit?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem.
Like I just don't
They have no incentive to do their job well because like they're gonna get the money.
There's no
I think it would be
I understand that this is like a different scenario than normal people like trying to get jobs, but it's rather than, I don't know, there has to be a better way than med students who are $200,000 in debt having to pay $500 to apply and then the system not even working.
Here's my advice. As I've said, computers, when computers and people meet, and they always do, there's going to be glitches. There's going to be problems. Whenever you're engaged in this sort of process where the failure of yours or of the system to do what's required will destroy your chances for success, document everything.
Yeah.
I would argue that you should take screenshots or screen recordings of everything you do in ERAS or in any other system like it, if you ever encounter one, so that you can go back and look at it and say, no, I did this correctly. You owe me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why didn't you tell me this 2 months ago, Dave?
I'm sorry. I didn't think of it until just this morning.
This is a new problem.
This is a new problem. Yeah. I didn't even hear about this problem until this morning.
Okay, but how can I figure out that this problem has not happened to me?
Yikes. I guess you've gotten interviews.
I have gotten interviews, but was it these people it was happening at every program or just some of the programs? Because I haven't heard back from 8 programs.
Call the programs.
Call them.
I was going to say, is that okay?
That's absolutely
I can call and be like, I heard this was happening and just wanted to make sure you got all my documents, please.
Yeah, when your career potentially writes on it. Yeah.
Our stakes are high.
Well, thank you, friends.
Keep every email sent to you. Obviously, remember, medical students are not passive, ideally. In this instance, that means being sort of watchful and skeptical. There's only one person in this process that really is watching out for you.
And that's
you.
That's you. Yeah.
And I hate to put it back on you but it's kind of the nature of the world is that no one is going to do as good a job at keeping track of your interests as you are. But yeah, I would call program. It's okay. You can call programs.
I mean, I sent emails like hi, please read my application.
Yeah, but the question you want to ask now is...
Now I want to ask, hi, please, I need to know that you got my documents.
Did you get my letter of recommendation? Did you get my board scores? Did you get my personal... Just checking. Just want to make sure.
It's a nice courtesy when programs of any kind will let you, like any organization that is a recipient of your materials will let you know. I remember when I was applying to med school, I applied to a school in Canada, and for some reason, and like I'm from Canada, so it's just like a institutional culture thing that they're like, we're not going to let you know if there's any problems. It's no news can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And you have to be super proactive. Because I remember there was like an issue with one of my applications to a med school in Canada, and they never let me know. And I was like, hey, it's called email. It takes 2 seconds. Are your fingers broken? Like, were you being spiteful? I think in some cases, it's almost like a test of your will and your determination to go there, that you will go out of your way to seek that information out. But, and again, I wasn't entitled to that information.
It's hard. I mean, look, if you've got, thousands of students that are applying to your university or whatever, I guess, you could say that it takes just a couple of seconds to send an email, but
yeah. If they did that for all 1,000, 2,000 people.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I got only from a very small number, but I got a handful of automatic emails from schools that I applied to, like the first day applications were visible, that just said, hey, thank you for applying. Here's more information about our school. Most didn't say really any like super, super useful information, but it was just kind of nice to have that. And then one school I really appreciated, they kind of gave a timeline for how they were going to review. And again, it was an automatic email. So something that they could just draft one time that could just automatically spit out to all of the applicants that applied to them. That was like, hey, we just want to let you know that we will not be inviting more than we have interview slots. These are the weeks that we are going to be reviewing applications. It could be, the beginning of this, the end. Please feel free to not be glued to your phone and just get back with us within a few business days.
Interesting.
And I was like, well, that's nice for your program.
Yeah.
But it was just really nice to have a timeline. I think I don't want to repeat myself too much. I might have talked about this the last time I was on, but
I don't think so. But anyway, I mean, the more information you can get as an applicant, the better you'll feel. I mean, why doesn't ERAS, for instance, send you an email automatically that says, hey, we're missing these important things?
Especially if it's an automated system.
Your application is ready to go. Good job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you submit it, you do get a confirmation email.
Yeah, but that's not the same as like
the absence of a confirmation email.
Or right? Like you get an email that you submitted it, but if your letters of recommendation didn't quite happen right, or I guess in this case it wouldn't have mattered, because if it is a glitch, then the problem isn't that you didn't do your job. The problem is that something happened with the system.
I was going to say, it's not that you didn't submit something. It's that the information wasn't transmitted to the people who needed to see it.
Right.
It sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. And somewhere in that chain, there was an issue, but it's hard to know without especially knowing these specific student situations, like exactly what everything looked like. It'd be hard to predict.
I just, I'm not a computer expert, but I think for $94 million.
And speaking of,
I could do it.
You're right.
Yeah. I'll take that $94 million. I'll learn how to code.
Pornhub, any contacts on how to run a system. But speaking of transparency too, like we said, like for $94 million, it's wild to me, or to like think that still a lot of the like averages or things like that of applications or board scores or things like that are like student reported on the like Texas Star or whatever, like the AAMC or AMCAS, has like, here's how many people applied from which state, here's how many people like got in, how many we interview. Like they are so transparent in that regard. And for this cash cow of ERAS, like how through the same AAMC company, like how is that not
We don't know the
Missing.
average of how many. It would not be that hard to gather these statistics. Like how many. That's why students are definitely over applying last year and this year, is because part of it's the uncertainty of the pandemic. So I'd expect things to increase a little bit and like more time available with virtual interviews, blah, blah, blah. But it's also the fear of the known that, okay, I'm just going to add 10 more programs to my app when you might not need to. And then if everyone kind of knew where they stood, then maybe like this inflation of the number of applications wouldn't be growing, and programs wouldn't have to read 1,500 applications, and maybe they would have to read like hundreds less, which would allow them to be able to select better without
and actually do a holistic review and not filter based on scores.
I was also super annoyed that, so you have like ERAS and then you have the NRMP, and those are like separate things, and there's a $50.
By the way, we pronounce NRMP NERPM.
Okay. The NERPM.
I thought, wait, wasn't it $75?
Oh, whatever. I lost count of the fees I was paying, because you also have to pay for your USMLE scores to get imported. That's not just automatic. But yeah, you have to pay to get...
Costs $50 for them to press a button.
Yeah.
And they're not even pressing the button.
And so you have to pay to get ERAS and the NERP to talk to each other. And I know you don't, but I love it.
I believed you for a second. I was like,
not,
all right,
but I really liked it, so I just went with it. So you have to pay to get them to talk to each other. And the NRMP, then once you pay your fee, they give you this number. And you can't even copy and paste that number into ERAS. You have to go back and forth and copy it, because the NRMP website is so dysfunctional, it doesn't allow you to highlight.
Oh, no. Hello. As somebody who knows a little bit about web design, that is a thing that you have to make happen.
What do you mean?
You have to disable copy and paste.
Oh, wow. So
they took extra steps.
They took extra steps to make my money even more useless. Yeah. So I just was like, what am I paying for if not to be able to copy and paste this number?
It was just such a surprise, because like I, had calculated how much I was going to spend, because I had been narrowing down my program. So I knew this dollar amount, a range of dollar amount, depending on what my final number of applications was going to be that I was going to spend. And I was like, okay, now it's time to put my do my NRMP thing, whatever. And it was like, $75, please. And I was like, like in the hundreds of dollars I spent applications, like 75 is like not that much, but I think it just offended me so much, because I was like, why?
You're so offended, and then you can't even copy the number. If you're gonna pay for it, like at least let me easily put the number into my ERAS.
Yeah.
This is the hill I'm going to die on, is this copy and paste issue.
And then I also found out, which won't be an issue for me, but is maybe an issue for people who just get a lot of interviews and they decide they want to rank all of them, which is interesting. Or if your couple's matching, and you might have to rank more than 20, but you have to pay an additional fee per program if you want to rank more than 20 programs. Like, again, you probably shouldn't need to rank more than 20 programs unless you're doing transitional year or applying to different programs or couples matching. But even so, even if it's a small number of people, like, that's also ridiculous. I guess maybe it's a financial incentive to not do that. I don't know.
I think that could be part of it.
Yeah.
But let's put it on the students' backs.
Yeah, exactly. There's something to be said about like customer service. And we live in a country where the customer is king, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But this is a place where like we are the customers, and we have absolutely no leverage, because there's not like a Target, to the Best Buy of ERAS. There's not another option.
You are the customer, but there ain't no other store in town.
Yeah. Like, they don't have an option to not participate.
Yeah, their business model is, you give us all your money, and sometimes we do our job.
Listeners, if you ask us a question, it means that I don't have to make something up to talk about on the show, and the show becomes what you want it to be. So send your questions to theshortcoats@gmail.com or leave a message at 347-SHORT-CT. We'll talk about it on the show.
Can I tell you about my step one experience with Prometric?
Tell us everything.
So
I'm sorry, I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. Tell me everything.
It's very, very, that was really creepy, Dave.
It was the breeze. This room is very breezy.
The air.
Easy, breezy, beautiful.
Oh, the air just turned on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it just
podcast.
Things were blowing around. I was very shocked.
I am sorry if this unlocks a new fear for you listeners, but we know that Prometric was having issues with the pandemic and, you know, centers being closed, blah, blah, blah. And so I guess my experience wasn't that unique to those. It's just that I took my test like kind of after all of that, like a year after, so they should have fixed all these issues. And so after a long dedicated time where my aunt was severely ill with COVID and I was just going through so many personal hardships and struggles, and I pushed my test back and I was finally ready to take it. It's March in Iowa, which can be really bad weather or really great weather. It happened to be really great weather that day. So I wasn't expecting any issues. You know, if it was snowy, oh yeah, maybe I have to like postpone because the testing center's closed. Nope. Perfect day. Show up to my testing center. No one's there.
What?
And so this was at like 8 a.m. And well, I got there early, so we're just waiting and waiting. There are 3 other students. One of them was one of my classmates. One of them was a veterinarian student who, this was her second attempt at taking her board exam because the same exact thing happened to her 2 months earlier. And because she needed to be in a new eligibility period, she had to wait a full 2 months to take this test. And then another one was just a construction worker who's taking a licensing exam who had to take time off to go take this test.
Beads of sweat are forming on my forehead for you and these people.
So we wait and we're like we're all calling different organizations. Like, we're trying to call the actual center. We can hear the phone ringing, but no one's in there. We're calling like Prometric National, and then we're calling whatever the organization that kind of like through the med school that kind of like books, like partners with Prometric. I can't remember what it's called.
The NERP. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. There's so many different like systems to keep track of, and nothing. And so finally, my mom had dropped me off. I call her. This was 25 minutes on the other side of town. She had to come back and get me. And then I like haven't cried. But then when I get home, I was like, I'm not supposed to be home right now. I'm supposed to be an hour into my test after everything. And so then as soon as I get my stuff together, I call Prometric because I'd hung up multiple times because they just put you on hold.
Yeah.
And they tell you to hang up in their hold message. They're like, oh, you should go to our website. Now you can make schedule changes easier by going to our website. I was like, I can't go to your website because I'm supposed to be in my test right now, and no one knows that I'm not in my test. So my scheduling number is expired. So I cannot reschedule this until 48 hours after my test. And I was like, I need to take this now. And so I spend 3 hours on hold, not knowing if anyone would ever pick up. And like the nicest actually customer service person picks up. He's able to reschedule my test for me. But I was so mad because they created this whole message to incentivize you to hang up. And if you just stick it out, you'll eventually talk to someone. And so I end up driving 4 hours to Kansas that day so I could take it the next day.
Oh my God.
Because I wasn't gonna wait anymore.
Yeah, and this is an 8-hour test, everyone, if you're not aware. So it takes a good bit of preparation just to be ready to be in a building for 8 hours. You know, you need to figure out what
psychological prepreparation.
Yeah.
You
well,
know,
and like you need,
not to mention being pushed to your intellectual limit for 8 hours straight.
And I set up everything. I packed all my snacks, you know, and I really struggle with sleep at times. And I had gotten a full 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So it was just like,
what a waste.
Yeah.
I know. So it's
the only blessing in all of this was that the Kansas testing center, for some reason, don't start all their tests till 9 a.m. So that stress alone, knowing that there's no way I was going to sleep through it, actually helped me to sleep okay the next night. But anyway, it was just such a rigged system. I never got my money back.
So you still paid for 2 tests?
I did not pay for 2 tests. but like I was requesting the $150 that I spent on a hotel.
Oh yeah.
Because I stayed at my parents' house, so I didn't have that cost for my original plan, but I had to drive somewhere. Like I spent money on gas, I spent money on a hotel.
Through no fault of your own, right? Because of their failings.
Yeah.
So,
and I just I could have taken it later, closer to home when I was already in a rotation, but I had this whole week off.
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste any more time.
I feel like you wouldn't have done as well if you're taking time off of rotation to do it. Just even though you still have all that studying, like you don't lose that, but it's still I just can't stress enough the mental load of taking these exams.
Yeah.
That it's if you were having to deal with like actual patients and taking care of humans on top of this huge test, like I just that wouldn't have been
psychological realty that it consumes to prepare for this it leaves you so depleted that like the fact that you had to deal with, and also like imagine if you didn't have the means to like thank God you had money to drive to a place.
And my
Suppose
husband
you didn't have a car.
Jumped in the car with me, so I had someone that could like know I would wake up and get there and I didn't have to drive the whole time. So yeah, I'm really lucky, and I'm really lucky I found one for the next day. And then I just ended up swinging by. It was kind of close to where my sister lived and visited with her, but so I had some semblance of a vacation afterwards, but it was...
You are making the best lemonade out of the shittiest lemons of all time.
Okay, so the worst / funniest part of it all is... So the test is supposed to start at 8. I'm supposed to be there at 7:30. At 12:30 p.m., I get an email that says, sorry, please do not show up to the testing center. Your testing center is closed. And then it gives a list of reasons why it could be closed.
Wait, your Iowa Prometric Center or the Kansas?
The Iowa one. Okay. So I had already rescheduled my test at this point. God. They were like, natural disaster, power outages, or other reasons relating to the COVID-19 pandemic, or other reasons.
That's an email drafted by an attorney. I guarantee.
Yeah.
What in the world?
That's crazy.
What in the world is the point of that list of things?
I don't know. It's just like
I'm trying to imagine the person composing this email and what they thought that they were doing.
It's liability mitigation. It's okay. You can't sue us because of all these things that are totally outside of our control.
Because of other.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We went.
Other happened. Sorry.
Yeah. Step 1 gnomes. It's gnomes.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
The
and then while this group of 4 of us were waiting, we were working with each other trying to figure this out. What was happening? The only reason why I knew to just call and stay on hold was because of this poor veterinarian student who this is her second go around with this. But there was someone else in it, because it was like a business suite, so we were like inside. There was a lady that walked by and she's, are you guys waiting to take a test? And we're like, yeah. And she's, I'm so sorry. They do this a lot. So apparently they just, whoever they hire for this testing center, they just don't show up to work quite frequently.
Wow.
And then we found a bunch of Google reviews. This is Des Moines.
Okay. Nah.
Don't go to Des Moines.
Nah, in Hiawatha, the lady's going to make you feel bad for taking breaks. She's like complaining to me about how people like who take these USMLEs, some of them take breaks every block. And I'm like,
that's what I did.
Bitch, we're entitled. I
get an hour of break time. You better believe that I'm going to use it. Why is she complaining
to you?
It's more work for her. She has to check you in and out.
You're like,
yeah.
No, so you have to.
I'm busy taking my test.
You have to so it was like while I was signing back in, and you have to check all your you have to turn all your pockets inside out, and they scan you with a metal detector and scan or look at your driver's license. It's like a whole thing. It's really annoying, and I think you should get an extra. I don't think that time should be counted as your break, but whatever. And so she's scanning me down and talking about how annoying this process is and how bad it is that she has to do this. And it's like, yeah, and some people just take a break after every single block, and I was like, and she's like, don't feel bad about taking breaks, but I have to do this every time. And I was like,
guilt tripping you.
I'm sorry that my pockets are tiny because she kept getting annoyed. I have this one pocket that's like half an inch deep and it's really annoying to try and turn it inside out.
Lady pocket.
It's so annoying that I have to deal with this braille when I'm trying to go about. I mean, I know you're blind and everything and you depend on this critically for your whole life, but it's very annoying and I need you to know. I mean, you're literally getting paid. This is your job.
Yeah.
So I guess to make all of this worth it, I don't want to just come in here and complain just to complain. I guess if you're a listener, you're here in the room with me, just when you have the power, try to advocate for medical students in these horrible systems. There's probably some very complicated contract they made with Prometric that it can't get out of, or they have no incentive to get out of it. But just know that there are other people who, I don't know, just know that the system is rigged, and I guess try to take care of yourself. And then when you have the time and the energy and the power, like I did everything I could to report this specific testing center. It's gone nowhere. And then I just gave up because I didn't have the energy, but we just need to do better for our medical students and our trainees.
And they can, they rolled out like administering the tests like at medical schools, like in the pandemic, like they actually did this. I think they piloted on some like East Coast
They rolled
schools.
out.
Yeah.
I thought you said ruled out.
Oh, no, they've done. I don't know like what the status of that now, if that's like still an option or not, but there are other options. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would kill jobs, Nathan. That would kill the job of the person who's not showing up at 8 a.m. at the Prometric Center, apparently. I can't think of a job where you can just not show up and be like, yeah, it's fine. I'll still get paid. Like that's a fireable offense to not show up to your work.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
especially something as critical as this,
I don't know.
We have spent
this entire podcast
44 minutes bitching.
No, hang on.
And I'm happy to provide that platform. I'm more than happy to provide.
It's not bitching.
Platform.
This is important information for people going into this process to know, like, this can happen. Yeah.
Okay.
We're advocating for a vulnerable student population.
You're right.
How to put a positive spin on things, Dave.
Look, I was wrong. We have advocated for 44 minutes.
Shortcoats, if you're enjoying our conversation today, I'd be grateful if you'd let people know by posting a story on Instagram or Facebook or tweeting about us. And don't forget to tag us in your post.
Thank you.
We batted around some ridiculous interview questions I found on the internet last week. But I actually think that the way most job interviews are done are the worst way to get to know a candidate. There's just too many ways for a candidate or an employee to misrepresent themselves, even if they're well-meaning, because it's a game. I don't have a solution to that problem, but I would like to maybe try some questions that might be better. Okay. Getting to know you as a person. That holistic review because they've gotten your scores, they've gotten your application, they've gotten your personal statement, they've gotten the game playing things. Now let's find out about you.
I'm a little terrified.
This is not, what is so let's ask this. What is your favorite piece of culture right now?
Oh, I have
What kind of question is that?
It's a question that I want to know to get to know you, to really, know who Abby Fife is. Favorite piece of culture right now. Could be anything.
Okay. Got an answer.
Go ahead,
Any
Elise.
aspect.
I was going to say, so I don't know how many people know this about me, but I'm a big rap fan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's a show on Hulu called American Saga that details the rise of the rap group, the Wu-Tang Clan. And it is phenomenal. Wu-Tang Clan, yeah. So, like, very famous rap group founded by Bobby Diggs, aka the RZA. And I had heard like interviews, with him on like NPR talking about like how he, learned how to write a screenplay. And these are like kids who grew up under the toughest of circumstances, had absolutely nothing. Like their only real, access to livelihood was like selling drugs. And they, through hard work and, skill building on the go, built a business and a rap group and persevered. And it's just all around like a cool story and like very inspirational for us who like arguably, I'm not living in such dire circumstances, but I can relate to like day in, day out hustle, round the clock, working hard, like cold calling, having doors shut in your face. So I think that answers your question because it is a piece of culture, right? But yeah,
related to this, I think it's great.
Yeah,
related to Wu-Tang Clan, our old friend Martin Shkreli of Pharma Bro fame, who famously raised the price of insulin like 6 jillion times, recently had to satisfy a judgment against him, and that Wu-Tang Once Upon a Time in Shaolin album that he had personal sole access to, had purchased with all this money.
Yeah,
it's been basically given to a collective called Pleaser DAO for $4 million. So Shkreli still doesn't have his Wu-Tang album. Just so you know,
he's so undeserving.
Just
he's
keeping
so
you up
undeserving.
to date on Martin.
Does
anybody have a piece of
culture that I'm still so enamored by is Squid Game, and how it has infiltrated like not just Netflix, but it's on social media, it's on memes, it's in Halloween costumes. They have pop-up stores. Like
it's pretty interesting, especially because Korea. It wasn't that long ago that Korea was like just cars and phones. They didn't really have a cultural export.
Parasite, I think maybe a nice like step into for the American mainstream to get kind of exposure.
It's also funny that they're capitalizing on this. Oh wow, I didn't even mean that pun. They're capitalizing on this show about capitalism by like
fascinating, right?
Selling all this merchandise just like all this. I don't think that's like the main way that this is kind of spreading. I think a lot of it is just people really thinking about whatever system that they're trapped in and relating it to the Squid
very
Games.
Relatable.
But
relatable. Interesting. Yeah, so I put off watching it for a little bit just because I couldn't commit all the hours that I knew I was going to spend in a row watching it. But like all of the memes that came out, and suddenly after I watched the show, I was like, oh, this makes sense now. It was pretty good. Pretty brilliant.
I did hear that the subtitles for that show,
the English dub is not.
The English dub is terrible. Mm-hmm. We can get that out of the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
English dub is terrible, but the subtitles, which were the recommended way for English speakers to watch, turns out to have been somewhat inaccurately translated.
Oh.
And so there was some controversy some observation a few weeks ago by somebody who spoke Korean. Hey, this translation is completely incorrect and actually is screwing with the meaning of the original intention. Anyway, I don't know much about it. But
do you think that's certain moments or like
certain pivotal moments apparently?
Oh, interesting.
I have not watched it, so I don't know.
It's funny. The last time I was on, I'd only seen 3 episodes, and I listened back to at least that part of the episode, and I was like, "Oh, there are things that I didn't know that were going to happen that I was talking about."
The best meme I think that I've seen is like the red light, green light game in regards to medical school, and it's the girl turning around is like filters that programs use to like screen out applicants. So she like turns around and it's 209, 210, just like shooting all the prospective applicants. Anyway, sorry, it was good.
It's so dark. It's so dark.
Do you have a piece of culture?
I don't know. I haven't been thinking about my own as I've just been thinking about what Aline and Nathan said. Let me think.
Well, that's okay.
The queen herself, Adele, is about to release her next studio album, 30.
It's been a while for
coming
Adele.
up. Correct, it has. So she's been hitting like the late night talk show. I'm really like impressed by her marketing, as she like has essentially gone like radio silent for the last like 5 years to come hot onto the scene like that.
The funny thing is that, okay, so I'm not in the know on all these pop culture things, and I thought that I was just missing all this stuff from Adele for years when she came back, and I was like, oh, like I didn't realize it was a big deal because I thought I just hadn't seen anything from her. I didn't realize she wasn't actually
putting music out there.
I didn't realize that either.
And I know I want her to live her best life, but also like in a selfish way, because similar to Rihanna, like
where's my Adele?
Correct,
Adele?
similar to Rihanna. Yeah, it's like you have this like talent, and I want you to like, for my selfish reasons, put that music and Lord and all these other like artists.
Feed my soul, please.
Correct.
Don't deny
like,
me this.
You know what you were put on this earth to do.
Dance, monkey.
Correct.
What in a world where you can't be both? Would you
wait. Madeline,
did you come up
did
with
you think of something?
Okay, I hate to go back to another TV show, but I am going to take a strong stance and say that Ted Lasso is possibly the best show created
100%.
Tell me
ever
about
exist.
this, because I keep hearing about it. I haven't checked it out, but I like Jason Sudeikis.
This is my elevator pitch. So, it's like any comedy. It makes you laugh, but it's just you would appreciate this. You love comedy. So, it is just the best comedy combined with heart that I have ever seen. And what makes it such good writing and such a good show is you can't predict what the characters are going to do next. So it's not like a drama. Oh, there's this huge twist. No, it's just people don't act in stereotypical ways. So you have this conversation that the writer Bill Lawrence, who created Scrubs, has created, where, and his writing team, of course, where they're like, maybe playing on some stereotypical part of society, like a couple is fighting and they've had a miscommunication, and what you would expect is, you know how in some TV shows it's the whole fight is because people are gonna say something but someone assumes something, and then that person gets mad and decides not to say that thing or explain, and then they walk away. Well, in this situation, it's no, they're like, no, this is actually what I meant, which is what would happen in real life,
Yeah.
And so just even the small moments, they're building up to a twist, and you think the twist is going to happen, but no, it's just like a normal human response. And it's just so refreshing. It reflects our values. It makes you laugh. It's quick-witted. It's some American from Texas coaching a British soccer team. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I haven't seen much of it, but what I have seen over my wife's shoulder is very kind.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But again, not in a cheesy way.
No.
And the cheesy moments are
and I
still
found myself being surprised by the characters' actions or actually several of the characters' actions, because as somebody who hadn't been watching it, I immediately was sort of cueing into those traditional TV tropes. This person's going to act this way. This person's going to act this way. And it didn't happen. And then I was like, what's going on?
The villain's not always the villain.
Right.
And Ted is hilarious. In some ways, he is kind of got that like clueless trope going on, but he's clueless in a way that is kind. Whereas I feel like usually if you think about like Michael Scott, hilarious, but his cluelessness is like harming others, and that's kind of what's funny.
And you think Ted is going to be this perfect character, but the second season is really starting to dig into his flaws, and then other members of the coaching staff are like stepping up to fill in the gaps. And
I didn't like the second season nearly as much as the first.
I'm only halfway through it, but it's incredible. I would highly recommend you get 1 week free of Apple TV, and then it's $5 a month. It is worth the $5, and a lot of people are complaining that it's on this platform, but a lot of major networks turned it down. That's why it's on Apple TV.
Yeah, Apple TV, by the way, I think is killing it right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a ton of things. But it has some really good ones. The Foundation series right now, science fiction, For All Mankind.
I love For All Mankind,
which is it's basically a story about it's a television series about what would have happened if the space race never ended.
Yeah, it's really cool. As a space lover, I highly recommend.
Yeah. It's science fiction, but it's also sort of alternate timeline science fiction, and there's a lot of because the story takes place so far anyway in the past, or in what could have been the past, you get to see sort of like how things would have been different. So really interesting. I highly recommend it. It's also just kind of good story.
Yeah,
good story. All right, what did your parents call you besides your name?
You son of a...
Besides my name. Yeah. Well, sometimes they called me by my sister's names.
Well, no, that doesn't. They didn't have a little nickname for you?
No.
I was Abs.
Okay, all right.
I've actually been very vehemently Madeline and fighting off all the people who try to call me Maddie like my whole life.
I don't have any trouble believing that.
My parents always called me Madeline, and there are so many people, which is fine, that go by Madison or that our names are Madison or Madeline that go by Maddie, and that's fine, but my parents never called me anything but Madeline, so it's really hard to adjust when someone calls me Maddie. So
I guess it could also be family members that aren't your parents. I should be.
Yeah.
Like I have.
I was a Pfeiffer for Lifer in third grade. That was my third grade teacher.
My soccer nickname was Mad Dog.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Nathan?
Sports, it was always just the default to last name, Spitz.
Okay.
Swallow or swallows. My name is a sentence, Nathan Spitz. It's a subject and verb.
Nice.
Just, throwing it out there.
Love it.
Aline, did you have a...
My mom always called me Bella from an early age, and I think it's because her father spoke Italian in their household. So, for example, when my brother had his daughter, she refused to go by the name like grandma in our language, so she goes by Nena, which is like a mix between Tita and Nonna, which is what Italians call their grandmas. So,
I was Davy Doodle.
Oh my God, that's adorable.
Was Davy Doodle with the googly eyes, which I don't know. That's a deep cut from ERAS past. What else? My father.
ERAS or ERAS?
ERAS, actually.
I was also my father called us goons or Goonie Bird.
Now you're jogging my memory a little bit. So my brother and sister, I'm the oldest, and so sometimes even to this day, like I am 26 and my sister's 24 and my brother's 22, I think. Anyways, so we're all adults now, but we still sometimes call each other by how we used to pronounce each other's names as kids.
Oh yeah.
So like my brother and sister will call me Malwin, which is what my brother would always call me, and then I call Andrew Andu, and then we say Owie, like Allie, Owie. Nice. So sometimes we still call each other that.
That's painfully adorable.
It is cute.
That's so cute.
What song do you often sing in the shower?
This girl is on fire.
Pretty good.
I don't know why. I don't know if I even do that.
Excellent.
That's the first song that came to my head.
Well, you probably think it as opposed to sing it.
I
That still
don't
counts.
sing in the shower. I have like deep philosophical thoughts and solve all the problems
And
of
arguments
the
with
universe.
people.
Yeah, I really don't sing though.
I definitely sing in the shower.
I used to, but I stopped because I realized that people outside of the shower can hear you.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't handle that, and it crushed all the joy from it. So no more singing in the shower for Abby.
Oh dear.
Yeah, sorry.
Nathan, do you sing in the shower?
It's probably my girl Adele. I think that's where I could get the most like inner power. It's me, or Set Fire to the Rain, Turning Table, someone like. I think that if I'm gonna belt it out in the shower, I think it's gonna be Adele.
I sing like I feel like it's just whatever's in my head.
Yeah, I tend to wake up with songs in my head.
Probably a lot of Hamilton.
Okay, all right.
My husband's name is Alexander, so like I'm always like going, like sometimes I'll call him by Alexander.
That's hilarious.
I sing mostly yacht rock in the shower. You know, James Taylor and like what else? Like Little River Band kind of stuff. Things that you kids don't know about.
Those words.
Get the 8-track. And rewind it.
Yeah, I actually have an 8-track in my shower. Which superpower would you choose? The ability to lie absolutely convincingly or super strength?
Super strength.
Oh, super strength.
Yeah.
Oh.
That'd come in more handy.
Lie.
I knew one of you.
Lie, of course. When a super strength, what am I going to use super strength? I'm never going to use it. I mean, I guess.
I mean, it might come
You would
in
never
handy.
need to hire movers.
Well, I don't need like movers now, but to lie so convincingly that you can
Movers
move,
also don't need super strength, although they are very efficient.
But I just feel like you could just do things so much more. I don't know. I just like the concept of lying.
I don't like lying. Yeah.
Well, I
don't like lying, but I feel like I'm relatively good at it when I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I don't need to need that superpower because I feel like it would just enable me to do bad things. Where super strength, I feel like I could help out.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Something. I'm just thinking of so many like one-off conversations that I have with people, or like at parties or things like that, where like I don't know, maybe it's just like the people I've interacted with that where they just come up with such like elaborate stories and things like that are
are a lie.
You just want to be more entertaining.
Correct. And I think there's a lot of one-off conversation, even in like medicine or things like that, where you're never going to see this person again, and if you can lie in a really like great way too.
Yeah,
like you can lie or not be like genuine and still get
if you think about like
compliments
comedians,
or,
they've taken this one moment, and I'm sure I'm like Aline over here can elaborate, but they've taken this one moment in their life that happened like this. But then it's just you start adding details, and then someone said this in response, and it could be a very real experience.
To do that
like an embellishment.
It's like a conversationalist type of thing, I feel like I would use much more than...
So how often are you confronted with a burning car, for instance? It just doesn't happen that often.
I am haunted by a time when I did not lie, and this was at a CVS the day before a test in didactics, and the cashier asked me how I was doing, and I was honest. I was like, I am so stressed. I have a really hard test tomorrow. I do not know why I told the truth about how I was doing. I really, to this day, do not.
They did ask. So.
And this poor lady thought that I was like on the edge of a cliff. She was like, are you sure you're going to be okay? And I was like, I don't know what I was buying. So
I just needed to tell a person that.
So to the cashier at CVS, I'm really sorry I told the truth to you 3 years ago.
I have a philosophical objection to lying. And I made a commitment a couple years ago, motivated by my partner, to give up lying forever. And it has honestly dramatically improved my life, because lying only spawns more lies, and it's not just for altruistic reasons. It's because I don't have time to maintain all of these alternate versions of reality.
So I want to.
So you made a commitment to authenticity.
More about this. So do you have rules? Like if the CVS cashier asks you how you're doing, you have to be honest with that.
Okay, so I do have rules
on the other side. Yeah.
If I do lie, I have 24 hours to make it true.
Okay.
So if I tell someone I can't go to something because I'm working, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to work during whenever that thing is.
Yeah.
I have to make it true.
So then that motivates you to just tell people hey, got a lot going on. I think I'm going to take some time to myself.
But what?
I was going to say, so actually the biggest reply I get to that is people being like, so you just tell everyone everything about your life? And I'm like, no. It's perfectly fine to say something like, I don't feel comfortable discussing that with you. Or like, I'm not ready to have that conversation. And notice none of that involves lying.
For insert any blank reason.
Exactly.
You don't owe anybody an explanation.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's taught me how to navigate difficult situations while still living in accordance with my values of because lying forces people to live in, it alters their reality, and they're operating on information that's not accurate. So they may end up making a decision that will hurt them because of information I've incorrectly informed them with.
Also, it alters your reality too as the liar, because a lie told often enough starts to become embedded in your head.
Yeah.
And then eventually that becomes reality for you.
If somebody can teach me how to lie to myself, that I'm happy every day. You know what I'm saying? Look in the mirror I'm loving life. I'm so happy.
Faking it till you make it is not technically lying, so I will support that.
I'm still curious,
at what point are you altering your reality with these artificial words?
Trap me with my own logic.
No, I'm still curious though about how you handle small talk situations in which people ask you questions that you don't like how are you? And you don't actually really want to talk about how you are, not because you're doing bad, but because I don't actually know you. Do you consider omission to be lying?
A little bit.
Okay.
It depends. I often can say I'm fine and mean it. I'm all right.
That's true.
But I'm also okay with being not my best day, but I'll be okay.
Okay.
Hey, we got to say goodbye to Madeline, who has things to do.
I have a road trip.
Cat.
Yes, and I have to take care of someone else's cat.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, short coats. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Well, wow, that was a surpurprisingly fruitful question in getting to know you.
Are you lying, or
no?
Are you just trying to appease our? Are you?
No, that felt very truthful and honest. Yeah.
Let's see. What's the strongest animal you could win a fight with using just your bare hands and feet?
I've seen kangaroo fights with humans, in the outback, and people have successfully punched and scared away kangaroos.
But I'm not saying can you?
They're
do
strong.
that?
Right. So I think not every time. This is not 10 times out of 10 that I would kick this kangaroo's ass. But I feel there are maybe some average kangaroos that if I
middleweight champ kangaroos, Nathan could take.
If I connect, I feel that would scare the kangaroo, and it's big enough where like I could do it. Like,
They're tall, dog. They're huge. They're like over 6 feet sometimes when they're standing at their max.
6'4". I feel like
really?
yeah, it's like
he
a
works
fair,
out too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but why are we attacking kangaroos?
We're not.
Because-
I'm
well-
just saying, like, if you
Animals
got
at
into a
all.
fight.
Right, and so
Okay.
in Australia, these kangaroos were like attacking or being very aggressive with these people's dogs, and so they went out to
I wanna
protect
live
the
in
dog and punch this kangaroo. I'm going to show y'all after that. We can put a link in the.
There's some
The show notes.
monstrous insects in Australia, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
indigenous species
fair.
that have
I can't-
developed their
I
independence.
couldn't win a fight with any of those.
Yeah.
What do you think, Abby? What would...
Okay, so I can just guarantee pretty much that I'm not winning a fight with a kangaroo. I can win a fight against small bugs that are slow.
And not too gross looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I'm
Ladybugs.
honestly not convinced that I could win a fight against much else, because the thing is that
All right, let's
if it's a big animal, I'm not going to be able to win. Yeah.
let's work our way up.
If it's
I'm going to start at a reasonable level.
Okay.
Squirrel.
a squirrel's going to run away from me. It's too fast.
No. But
Don't
you're
put
in
all these rules. You're putting all these like limitations to the question.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This is your for whatever reason
You have to
you've
fight
gotten
them.
into a fight with an animal.
Okay, I'm in a fight with a squirrel.
You're in a fight with a squirrel. Who wins?
I mean, the squirrel is faster and has sharper claws. It's gonna.
Yeah, but you've got brains.
Yeah, but if it's just my bare hands, I don't know. Am
A
I
battle to
trapped
the
in
death.
a room with the squirrel, or?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
battle. Yeah, you
It's
got
a
to
cage-
fight.
It's a cage match between Abby and a squirrel.
And
Face
running
mouth.
away is not an option.
I really thought this would be like a yes.
No,
and then
I
we could
really
move on.
still feel very unconvinced that because of the squirrel's speed, I'm going to be able to get in any kind of harm into the squirrel.
All right.
And the squirrel's got really sharp claws. It's going to scratch me. I'm going to get rabies. And
Maybe
then
I
in
went-
3 weeks, I'm
This
going to
is
be
the-
dead.
This is a slow burn.
Maybe I went to
I think you weren't thinking hard enough about this.
turtle.
So
I could probably beat a turtle because it is slow.
Yeah.
You're right. This is a great way to get to know. I have learned that Abby's very analytical and logical.
See?
And I very much value accuracy, and I'm not going to just pretend to beat a squirrel to make Dave happy.
Also, as it turns out, an
If
incredible
there's
animal
anything in this
lover.
world that would make me happy, it's knowing that you could kick a squirrel's ass.
I just don't feel that I could in my heart.
I believe in you. Like, worst comes to worst, I am finding it hard to imagine a squirrel like literally killing you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would be a pretty even match. Like, it's going to take a while to get to that. But yeah,
slugfest.
I don't have like agility. I can't really bend my back much at all. Like,
Oh yeah, you've
it
got that.
hurts to bend my knee.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to get in any kind of blow to this squirrel? Like, the most likely outcome is the squirrel and I just ignore each other, honestly.
Aline, do you have an animal that you?
I was going to say, like Abby perfectly said, a bug that's not too big and not too gross looking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave, what about you? Like, cage
Yeah.
match.
I think I could. I think I could probably go up against some kinds of dogs.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Yeah.
100%.
I feel like I could maybe take some smaller, slower dogs.
They bite pretty hard. Like
They
their
do.
jaw
They
strength
do.
is
They got some
phenomenal.
sharp teeth.
But if I can catch it and keep it held so its mouth
Yeah.
is away from
I wouldn't.
me.
I wouldn't survive unscathed.
But this is really, I don't like the thought of hurting a dog.
I was gonna
I feel
say.
really gross.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I made you. I mean, I don't want to. I have no desire to get into a fight with a dog.
Like, let's say
I'd
it's going to,
rather
like,
cuddle with it.
attack your child.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what would you,
Like
you
you're
know?
in imminent danger.
I mean, I
Right.
would probably take the child and run.
What do you? Okay.
So you're a flight in fight or flight person.
I am
Yeah, yeah.
100% of the time a flight.
Yeah.
What's your favorite amusement park or ride or attraction?
Well, I recently found out I'm not allowed to ever ride a roller coaster again.
No. Okay.
No.
Because your
Yeah,
back issues.
I have a weird spinal cord, and basically it ends way too low, so all my nerves come out like straight instead of at an angle, and so the high speed changes of direction could tear the nerves because they're coming
Yeah, we don't.
out.
We don't want that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. So it's not just like low consequence to riding a roller coaster. It's like you could ride a roller coaster and end up like paralyzed. So not roller coasters, which is too bad because I love them. I really love going fast. So if there's something that goes fast but doesn't change direction the whole time, that would be my favorite.
Maybe are the drop towers too much? That goes fast. I don't know if there's like a lot of jostling.
I'm really afraid of heights, though. Those are pretty hard for me. I do like them still because I like the fear.
The adrenaline, yeah.
But I don't know if the up and down counts. I don't know.
Much.
I didn't ask. I should have asked my doctor.
You gotta ask more questions.
You were asking a lot of great questions about the animals that you could fight.
This doctor really hates questions, though. So it was like it's really hard to get a word in. Otherwise, I would have been asking him like, okay, so let's list off all the rides at every amusement
Here's
park.
a printout I brought so that you can go through them one by one.
Now I know
Doctor hates
when you
questions.
schedule, you got to ask for a complex because they have scheduled, or at least this is what I've picked up now, is they'll for like return patients schedule them as complex or not, which will give you more time to talk to the doctor. But roller coaster rides, my favorite was
not roller coaster.
No,
amusement park. Yes, my favorite is a roller coaster. It's at Six Flags Great America. It was a Superman one, and so you like come in standing up vertical,
cool.
and then they tip you horizontal, so you're like flying or like staring at the ground.
I've heard of ones like that, and I've always wanted to try them, but man, I didn't mean to make this such a sad topic.
Maybe with VR or something, you can
augmented
get
reality.
like a similar.
Like I'm personally, I'm more into. I kind of like roller coasters, but I'm really more into slow stuff. You know, like the People Mover at Disney World, or like the Pirates of the Caribbean, or something with a story. You know,
Small World.
I don't need to be tossed about to have a good time.
I like being tossed about.
Yeah.
Did you have any, Aline?
I'm thinking of an amusement park in Montreal where I used to go as a kid, and I think it's now a Six Flags actually, but it was called the French word for merry-go-round, I think. Yeah, it was like it wasn't Disney World or anything crazy like that. Although we did go to Disney World a lot too, which I realize is like incredible now as an adult because it's so insanely expensive.
Yeah.
It was a little cheaper back then, but yeah.
I feel like I've learned a lot about you guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
We really bonded
I want
over
my
these
interviews
questions.
to be like these questions.
And not what enzyme. Oh my gosh, wait, what are y'all's favorite enzymes?
Well, okay,
Get
for a
out.
psychiatry person, I was going to be like, why not monoamine oxidase? That is the basis for so many of the medicines you will prescribe, theoretically.
Freeze, though.
Right,
That's
MAOI.
what she said is she like froze and could only remember the one enzyme lipase.
Well, I mean, everyone hates high cholesterol, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I don't
But
know.
what a bizarre question
It is
to
a
ask
really,
in an
really
interview.
weird question, and like a weird one for like psych. Like, I guess if you were maybe like doing, I don't know, an endocrine fellowship or something where there's lots of enzymes involved.
Yeah.
Should have maybe. What do you mean, like taste?
Yeah. That is true. There are lots of enzymes there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the taste of many enzymes, I'm sure. Well, that's our show. Nathan, Madeline, Abby, Aline. Madeline is not here.
Madeline in spirit.
Thanks for being on the show with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for the great time.
And what kind of... And what kind of person would I be if I didn't thank you, Shortcoats, for making us part of your week? If you like what you heard today, follow the show wherever fine podcasts are available. Our editors are AJ Chowdhury and Eric Bozart. The show is made possible by a generous donation by Carver College of Medicine Student Government and ongoing support from the Writing and Humanities program. Our music is by Dr. Vox and Cat Mesvier. I'm Dave Etler saying, don't let the bastards get you down. Talk to you in 1 week.
Aline, what did you think of ACAT?
Hi, Shortcoats. Look, life in medical education, life in America, life in the world is often difficult. And I often wish I could help. All I have is this podcast, but in my wildest dreams, you have the support you need to lead a life of your choosing. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and successful in whatever ways you define those words. So if you need support because you've experienced racism, discrimination, harassment, mental health crises, I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And so I'm going to put some links in the show notes to some resources that you can use. But the bottom line is that for what it's worth, I see you. I know you're out there. I wish I could do more. Maybe I can in ways that I don't understand yet or know about. But I see you, and I'm glad you're here, and other people are too.